Have you ever wondered what it's like trying to steer a massive cargo ship? You turn the wheel, but it takes ages for the ship to actually change course. Well, that's kind of what's happening with China's economy right now. And a new report from Morgan Stanley gives us this incredible inside look at the very complex and sometimes contradictory balancing act they're trying to pull off. This one phrase, right here, is everything for our explainer today. It's actually the title of the report, and it just perfectly captures the tension. Beijing is making moves that pretty much everyone agrees are the right ones, but the pace they're doing it at, well, that's creating some really serious and, potentially painful side effects. So what's the big problem they're trying to fix? In a nutshell, it's deflation and really weak demand. Basically, people and businesses just aren't spending enough money. And when that happens, it can drag the whole economy down. These new policies, they're designed to be the cure. Okay, so let's start with the good news, the right direction part of this whole thing. The core idea is actually pretty simple. Get more money and, just as importantly, more confidence back into the hands of Chinese consumers. At the same time, they want to build a much stronger social safety net for the long haul. And believe me, this isn't just talk. They are really pushing forward with a whole bunch of measures. We're talking loan subsidies to make it cheaper for you to borrow money, a full year of free preschool to help out young families, bigger payments for having kids, and even some huge new infrastructure projects, like the Xinjiang Railway. And just to give you an idea of the scale we're talking about, look at this number, 50 billion yuan. That's about $7 billion US, and that's just for one of these programs, the loan subsidies. So what the government is doing is basically paying a chunk of your interest on a loan. It's like a nationwide discount to get people borrowing and spending again. But, and you knew there was a but coming, right? This is where the story gets really complicated because for every action, there's a reaction. And while consumers are getting this nice little boost, another part of the economy is starting to feel a major squeeze. This is the slow pace part of our story, where the unintended consequences really start to show up. And this chart right here really puts the problem into focus. You've got policies that are making the price of upstream stuff, think raw materials, energy, that kind of thing, go up. But at the same time, because people aren't spending a lot, the companies making the downstream finished goods, your clothes, your electronics, they can't pass those higher costs on. In fact, they're having to cut their prices to sell anything. So what you get is this massive divide in profits. If you're in an upstream industry like mining, things are looking pretty good. Your profits are actually improving. But if you're a downstream manufacturer, one of the companies that actually builds things and employs tons of people, your profit margins are getting absolutely crushed. And the crazy thing is, this pain isn't immediate. It has a delay. So imagine you're a manufacturer. You've got a 1-year contract for your raw materials, so you're shielded for a bit. But the report finds that about 12 months later, when it's time to sign a new contract, bam, all those higher costs hit you at once. And that's when the squeeze becomes really painful. Now, if you want a perfect little case study of this whole right direction, slow pace dynamic, we just have to look at one area, Social Security reform. The goal itself, you have to admit, is a good one. Make sure all employers, even the tiniest little businesses, are paying into Social Security for their workers. It's about formalizing the economy, giving people better protection. But it creates a huge dilemma. Who pays for all this? Well, the small businesses do. The report estimates that if this policy is strictly enforced, it could slap a new annual cost of up to 1.6 trillion RMB. That's more than 220 billion US dollars onto the country's small and micro businesses. That is a massive new burden. And this is where you get a policy that is basically at war with itself. The whole point is to help workers, right? But by putting such a heavy burden on small businesses, which are the main engine of job creation in China, you risk them laying people off or just not hiring new people. You could end up hurting the very people you set out to help. So, as you can see, China is walking a real tightrope here. They're trying to rebalance this huge economy, but the path is just loaded with risks. So, what are the big shocks that could knock them off course? The Morgan Stanley report points to two main dangers. First, what if the economy slows down way more than expected? That would make all these profit squeezes and policy problems we just talked about even worse. The second is a sudden, sharp escalation in trade tensions with the U.S. Now, the report is pretty clear that neither of these is expected to happen in the immediate future, but they are absolutely the key risks to keep an eye on. And all of this leaves us with one final, really crucial question. China is moving, methodically, in what everybody agrees is the right direction for a more balanced economy. But the pace is slow, and the side effects are very real. So, in this high-stakes race against deflation and stagnation, the biggest question of all is whether this slow and steady approach will actually be enough to win.